Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. As you guys can see from the title, today I'm actually gonna be tackling a question I get very often, and it's how do you find the right stylist? Now, I don't think there's like a one size fit all with this question, but I think I can give you guys some tips as to how to go about finding the right stylist, and I'll give you guys a little background story on how I found my stylist, and then you guys can pick and choose any of these tips and see if they work for you. I know when it comes to anything related to aesthetics, when it comes to your skin, your hair, nails, it's really hard to just go to anybody, and building that trust with someone that they'll give you whatever you're asking for is a lot to ask sometimes, especially when you just don't know, especially there's no reviews, there's none of that. So I totally understand where you're coming from when you guys are like, oh my God, I just don't trust anybody. Trust me, I've been there. And I've also gone to stylists that I personally wish I never had because they left me with such an uncomfortable experience, and I obviously never went back. So if you guys are interested in finding out how I found my stylist and some tips that you guys can use to find your own, keep on watching. Okay guys, so I love when I'm filming in front of my little neon sign. I feel like I never sit here and film anymore because my basement is really cold. So like if I ever come down here, I always have to make sure that I'm super warm, wearing Uggs, like all the things. Cause there's heat, but there's not like heat like the rest of the house. So I'm always just like, eh. And I thought about moving this sign upstairs so I could find another space for it, but I just feel like it sits so perfectly down here that I'll just come from time to time and just film. But anyway, so as you guys know, I just recently got a haircut, and I'm always very open. I've always been very open when it comes to my hairstylist, where I go, all of that. And I actually, before I came across my hairstylist, I did try 2 or 3 other ones. That was when Diva Curl was like all the rave. Everyone was all about Diva cuts and all of that, the Diva Chan salons. So I did get a recommendation from a friend to try the Diva Chan salon in White Plains, which actually no longer exists. But I did try 2 of their senior stylists there, and honestly, my experience with them, it's not that it was necessarily bad. The good thing is that I don't remember any of their names, so I can't even just name drop here at this point. But what I will say is that they didn't make my experience, like, I didn't feel like I learned anything. And being someone who's very stubborn in their natural hair journey, which a lot of us are, especially when we're starting, we don't want to cut our hair. We're just there hoping that this haircut is going to bring our curls back somehow, some way, without compromising length and without having to do a big chop. I mean, that's what we want. We think that these haircuts are going to change our lives. Like, at least I thought that was going to be the case for me. So I'd always go in and say like, oh, just don't, make sure it looks good when I straighten it. I was just like, make sure you don't cut too much, knowing that I had like pounds of heat damage on my head. So the issue with the way that I feel like they went about it is that I didn't feel like they tried to explain to me that when it comes to your natural hair journey, it's all a mindset, and you have to be in a specific mindset. For them, it was just like, all right, well, you're gonna be wasting your money if you keep coming here. Like, if you're not gonna cut all your hair off and whatever, you're just wasting your money. Instead of just like telling me, like guiding me through it. You know what I mean? I mean, granted, maybe they don't get paid enough to be doing that, but I feel like if it were me and I was in that predicament years ago, as they claimed they were, I would want to guide someone through it. I know how hard it is to just cut your hair. So I would just explain to them my process and all of that, but I didn't get that experience. So tip number 1 when it comes to finding a hairstylist is, one of my biggest tips is to use the hashtags on Instagram. I'm actually gonna screen record so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So if you go to the search bar, which is already selected, as you guys see, I literally just have a ton of curly girls, babies, dogs, all the things. So you go into search. If you're looking for someone in New York City, I would type in curly cuts New York City. See, that one doesn't have that many hashtags, so I could say curly stylist New York City. That one has 64 posts. Okay, so we could keep looking, and it'll come across a few salons, and you just go through it, and you may or may not land the right person. Believe it or not, the way I found my braider was through that hashtag. So one thing I'll normally do, since I'm really big on looking up things with hashtags, I'll look up, since I do live in Connecticut, I'll do CT curly hairstylist and see what comes up. There's 48 posts under that hashtag, so what I do is just click it and go through it. Of course, some people use the hashtag and they're not even from Connecticut, so it's gonna be a little annoying to look through it and see if this person actually works in Connecticut. So you'll click Jackie's Hair Bar. Yep, she's in Connecticut. So if it's close to you, what you can do is just go through, try to find the actual business page and see if you can find pictures, or you know, maybe you follow people that follow the salon, maybe you can ask them questions. But I like to do that. I literally will scope through the internet, just roaming through hashtags. That's something that typically works for me. Of course, like I said, you'll go through it and you'll find like not even curly girls on there. But Jackie's Beauty Bar seems like it's a curly hair salon in Connecticut. Again, I go in New Jersey, and I'll tell you how I ended up there, which is gonna be my next tip. So you can also use this for TikTok as well. So what you can do is do CT curly hair stylist. Let's see what comes up. So this one is just...
You probably don't know this, but I'm a hairstylist. I work at a curly hair salon, and we only do curly hair. So I was thinking about maybe doing some tips and tricks on how to take care of your curls, how to stop.
You see, you just bumped into another person. The Curly Salon, Connecticut. So you could just literally go through hashtags and find different places. See, I'm actually finding places and I'm not even like thoroughly searching. So that's typically one of my tips, is to go through hashtags and try to find, you know, whatever is relevant. I found CT braiders, Connecticut braiders. I was just doing the most, trying to find braiders, and I would spend days and days on end till I found the right person, and then I read the comments. Like, I was like full-blown creeper mode, because if someone's gonna be putting their hands on my hair, like, I want to make sure that there's someone who has good reviews, who have possibly worked on kids. Like, if that person typically works with kids, then that's a good indication that they're pretty good, because a mom wouldn't just trust anybody with their kids' hair. At least I wouldn't if I was a mom. So whenever I see someone that can work with kids, kind of shows some patience, and that, you know, there's some trust there, because I don't feel like most moms will just be like, here, to anybody. Second tip, I actually wrote them down on my phone. My second tip is always to ask around. Like, asking around is always gonna be your #1 best bet to find the right place. Because for me, like, if I see a curly girl on the street, I will happily walk up to them and be like, oh my God, your hair is gorgeous. Like, do you live in the area? Like, who cuts your hair? I've been looking for somewhere to go, like things like that. And normally curly girls are pretty friendly. I have yet to come across someone who's not friendly. I have walked up to people and said, like, your hair looks gorgeous. Like, what did you use? Like, you know, asking for product recommendations. Just because sometimes when I see people with similar hair to me, I'm always just like, I wonder what they use. So I'm very open to walking up to people. I've had tons of people walk up to me and say, like, girl, where do you go? I've been looking for a curly hair salon, and I'll give them advice. Or, you know, ask people on Instagram too. If you see some curly girls online that you're like, oh my God, your hair looks bomb, like, where do you go? 90% of the time, people won't gatekeep that, because if you love your stylist, like, you want them to have more clients. And that brings me to tip #3, which is how I found my stylist. I could not tell you exactly which influencer it was that led me to this stylist, but one thing I will say is, if you have a curly influencer that lives in your area or in the tri-state area, for us, tri-state, because I live in Connecticut, so New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, like, that's all fair game. Even Massachusetts, I'd be open to traveling to for my hair. You know of an influencer that lives in that area, close to you or close proximity to you, so let's say you live in the DMV, everything is relatively close to each other. So if you know anybody that lives close to you that's an influencer, and they have beautiful curls, or you see that their hair, they always go for haircuts and like they don't tag the salon, feel free to reach out to that influencer. I feel like 90% of the time, like I said, we're very friendly and we want our stylists to get business, so we're open and happy to share that information. I know that I found Ona through an influencer, and I could not tell you if it was Chelly's Curls or if it was All Things Ada. Might have been one of the two, but I know that one day I saw that they were getting a curly cut, and I was already frustrated as heck with my hair, and I was like, I just need to find the right stylist. I don't know what else I could possibly do, and I ended up finding one. I found that one of them went to her, and I was like, you know what? These girls care for their hair, so I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna find an appointment with this woman. So I said, you know what? I'm not even gonna ask them, because I didn't have to. They tagged all the information of the salon, tagged the stylist and everything. I'm like, these girls have beautiful curls. I'm gonna make sure that I make an appointment with her, because I mean, if they go to her, they must trust her, so they're not gonna just go to anybody. You know what I mean? So I feel like if you see someone that has beautiful hair, don't feel ashamed or feel weird to walk up to them or just DM them and ask them where do they go. I feel like when it comes from a person who has been to the person, like a word of mouth experience, like you've been to that person and you love them and you share it with somebody else, I feel like that's the best recommendation in my opinion. When someone says like, oh yeah, I heard that they're good, like I don't think that's a safe place to go. I like to go, like I like to dive in and make sure that someone has been there, they've had treatments with this person. I want to see pictures, like I'm just psycho like that. But that's how you land the perfect people. Like I said, I've come across some stylists that just aren't my cup of tea. So normally my thing was looking up hashtags and asking people I know, or looking at the influencers that I follow and curls that I love to see where they go and ask them questions, because typically an influencer will not steer you wrong when it comes to where they go to get their haircut. Another resource is actually on naturallycurly.com. They actually have like a tiny little database where you type in your zip code, and with that it'll bring you to whatever salons that are in your area, which is pretty cool. The only downside is I don't think it's specifically natural hair salons. It'll just be salons that specialize in everything. So you just don't necessarily know what type of stylist you're gonna get. And that's why I think it's really important to get someone who has tried the stylist as an opinion before you just go to a place that says they work on curly hair. And I've heard stories where there have been salons that label that they do curly hair, and then when the curly person comes in to get their curly cut, it's never the experience that they expect. So definitely word of mouth is probably one of the best recommendations I could recommend, and also just asking people that you know of or have seen that have beautiful curls, and you know, maybe they have posted that they go to the salon. Ask them for details, ask influencers for details. I want to say like 98.5% of the time you will get a response from an influencer. It doesn't have to be one that probably doesn't answer their DMs. Like ask around, there's a ton of curly girls on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. So just ask and just get like an in-depth review and ask them like, what is it about the stylist that you like? And then once you find the stylist, if they have an Instagram page, obviously creep on them and DM them yourself. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. A good stylist will always take the time to respond to you. I know some of them get busy, but 90% of the time if they see your DM, they'll direct you to someone that can answer your question for them if they have like someone who answers their questions. But honestly, word of mouth reviews and asking influencers and curly girls what their recommendations are best. But like I said, naturallycurly.com does have a database that you could type in your zip code and it'll give you curly salons to visit. One thing I will say is that Google will steer you in multiple different directions. Like I have looked up curly hair salons, and when I go, like I see no diversity on their Instagram page, which it lacks, because I want to see my hair type on your Instagram feed to know that you actually work on my type of hair. Like our type of hair is a little special and not everybody works with it. So when you see our hair on someone's Instagram page, you're like, oh, okay, you know, this could work. But you want to make sure that you see diversity on their page. You want to make sure that you see curly girls on the page. And even though it says curly girl salon, curly hair salon, make sure that you see curly hair, because I have seen salons that say that they do curly hair and then there's no curly insight. So just saying. Hi guys, those are just a few tips on how to find the right stylist. Again, I will tag all the details to my salon down below. I actually go to 5 Salon Spa in New Jersey. It's actually in Fort Lee, New Jersey, so it's not that far from me. It's actually like an hour and 10 minutes, so it's not that bad. And my stylist name is Ona. I've been going to her for, I want to say a little over 3 years now. She did my big chop. She did a few haircuts before my big chop, but she has been my stylist for a very long time. So I've been sticking with her. She has been amazing on my hair. With her, you do have to make appointments quite ahead of time, but when I'm telling you it's worth it, it is worth it. So I'm open to making my comments kind of like a share where you get your haircut, tag where you're from, say like I'm from Texas or I'm from New York, New Jersey, but you don't have to say exactly where you live, like what city, but just add like where the salon is. That way everyone could just use my comments as a resource and you guys can pick and choose where and what salon you guys want to go to. You could also find each other on Instagram and go back and forth about any particular questions you might have about the salon. Like I said, there's no better resource than a curly girl, because we know. If there's anyone who knows, it's us, of what a good salon is. So yeah guys, I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to comment them down below. But that's all for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.